Alright, let's understand the very important topic with respect to AWS. Any kind of certification is S3. S3 is a storage service, or it helps in storage. Just to simplify things, how does it we can relate S3? So let's see, if you're using Windows, you might be aware that we use folders, and inside one folder there might be multiple files as well as folders, but the concept lies that a single folder and you can store multiple files in it. Similarly, in AWS we don't use any kind of folder, but instead we name it as bucket. So the bucket name should be unique. We'll cover this in a short while, also in hands-on. So bucket will have multiple objects. So these objects are nothing but files. In AWS we don't refer to as files, instead we refer to as objects, whether it can be like mp3 or can be JSON or CSV, TXT file, you name it. We'll name it as objects, whatever you keep inside the bucket. I hope you can relate how it relates with our Windows system. What we call folder, it's known as bucket, and what's known as files, it's known as objects. So that's how you can remember things easily. We'll go through some theory part of it, that a single object can have up to the size can be 5 terabytes. So this is as per the latest documentation. These numbers I've seen with my experience change from time to time. They might increase in future. You need to refer what is the maximum size, because these things might help in real exam. Any kind of cost related question with respect to storage, then S3 is the cost effective. Why is it cost effective? Because we can use lifecycle policies where we can move objects from standard tier to archive tier. We'll look at these things in a while in hands-on as well, but for now just remember S3 is generally the cost effective solution. Next comes your bucket name should be unique, as mentioned. Why the bucket name should be unique? I cannot name anything which is already present. Common name can be Amit also. We'll try this out. We store generally unstructured or semi-structured data like CSV, JSON in S3. We use, if it is a table, we might use different AWS services like RDS, DynamoDB, which is a NoSQL database, Redshift for data warehouse, those kind of stuff. But when it comes to semi-structured or unstructured, we generally dump these files in S3, right? I hope you got the concept. Let's do some hands-on related to this concept. Okay, so the console looks something like this. I have already visited this, that's why it's showing me. But if you want to search any service, just write here in the search bar, you'll get S3. Let's open this, and here we can see there are a list of bucket names, right? These are already created. These the public buckets which are accessible should be shown like this. I will create one bucket by clicking create bucket. This is the region where actually S3 is global, but it's it will confuse you. Conceptually it's global. Bucket name should be let me show you this concept. Amit is a common name, so if this bucket is available, then only we can create, otherwise it won't. So I've given one common name. This bucket name might be used, so I'm just trying this out with basic settings. We'll cover versioning as well, and tags can be especially with related to billings and cost. So I can write name it as dev, and the value can be with respect to your project, you can mention S3 or something. So this looks, I'm keeping this as default settings for now. If I click create bucket, see the bucket name already exists. So as mentioned, theoretically a bucket name should be unique, right? So let's give it Cloud Guru Amit. Let's hope. Okay, someone made me famous. They are using this name as well. I haven't created. Okay, let's give it Cloud Guru 007. So let's create this. We'll go down and create it. So this is how we create a bucket. So our bucket got created. Here we can see the bucket. This is what I mentioned, like the folders. So let's open this. And now if I upload anything here, so I won't call it as file, rather it will be called as objects. So let's try and upload something. So let's say I'll create one text file, name it as let's say dummy. I'll write I am whatever Cloud Guru Amit. Let me save it. I've saved it. Let's upload the file. Let's upload the file, dummy file. Let's click on this, upload. So yep, our dummy file, it got uploaded now. So this will be named as now like we'll call it as object. So this is what the basics of S3, that is whatever we create inside a bucket, the bucket name is this one, and this is the object name. So I hope you got the concept of buckets and objects. Alright, this question will test your concepts on different kinds of like access patterns, or more precisely like what kind of storage tier you needs to implement. So we'll look at option A first. A says S3 intelligent tiering. So S3 intelligent tiering is used when the access pattern is not known or unknown. As per the question, if you read, there is a mention of uncertainty of how frequently the data will be accessed. So this is a typical use case of intelligent tiering. We'll park this option. Let's look at option B. B says S3 standard IA. Option B is incorrect due to higher cost for retrieval, because as per the question, it's also looking for economical option that is cost friendly. Standard infrequent access is less ideal for like unpredictable access patterns, which the question is looking for. So B is out. Let's move to option C. C says S3 standard. So if we look at option C, it's again not the cost effective for long-term storage with uncertain access pattern, because we know that S3 standard is by default the storage tier in AWS, whatever objects we store. And if you want to transition to different storage class, then we move from standard to maybe Glacier. So those are for cold storage, and those are for like when the want to store the data for longer periods of time, which we no longer want to access. But there is no mention of such case. Instead, the question is more specific about the access pattern. So S3 standard in terms of cost will reject this as per the question. Let's now move to option D. D says S3 one zone infrequent access. So option D is again incorrect because it offers less resilience and availability, not suitable for critical data storage. As per the question, we need the data for long-term storage. So if anything goes wrong, we will not be able to store for long term. That is again a challenge with one zone IA. Hence, incorrect choice. Quick tip for the exam: whenever the access pattern is unknown for S3, then think about intelligent tiering. Let's look at the official documentation. It's mentioned S3 intelligent tiering is the ideal storage class when you want to optimize storage cost for data that has unknown or changing access patterns. We'll lock option A as the correct answer. Alright, let's bring the heat to the snow. This question is all about object locking. Let's look at option A first. I have highlighted the main word or the keyword so that you can focus on this. So option A says object should have both retention period and legal hold to prevent from overriding. So this option is incorrect because an object can be protected from being overwritten as per the question we need, by either retention period or legal hold. Both are not required simultaneously. Therefore, incorrect choice. Let's move to option C now. C says object lock should be applied at bucket level to prevent all objects in a bucket from overriding. If you look at this statement, object lock should be applied at bucket level. This is incorrect, right? Because object locks are applied at object level, not bucket level. Hence, incorrect choice. Let's now move to option D. D says object locks need to apply to all versions of the objects in a versioned bucket. So this option is again incorrect because object locks apply to a specific version, not all versions as mentioned here. Each version lock is independent of each other. So therefore we'll reject this and we'll lock option B. Object locks apply to a specific version of an object in a version bucket, and it is the correct answer. Okay, this question will test your concepts on objects retrieval from different S3 storage classes, especially with respect to Glacier and Glacier Deep Archive. We'll first look at option A. As usual, I'll be marking the words in the option to make it simpler. Option A says use standard retrieval option for objects to be stored from both the S3 Glacier storage class and S3 Glacier Deep Archive storage class. So standard retrieval takes several hours. If the documents are needed urgently, this won't be the fastest way. As per the question, if you read here, quickly as possible. If it's hours, then it's not as quickly as possible as per the question. So A is out. Let's now look at option B and D together. In both option B and D, if we look, the common factor is it's using expedited retrieval for S3 Glacier Deep Archive. So we know that expedited retrieval is not available for S3 Glacier Deep Archive. So this is invalid option. So B and D are invalid. Let's now move to option C. Option C says use expedited retrieval options for objects to be restored from S3 Glacier storage class and standard retrieval options for data stored in the S3 Glacier Deep Archive storage class. So option C is the correct answer because expedited retrieval for S3 Glacier storage class typically completes in 1 to 5 minutes, and standard retrieval for S3 Glacier Deep Archive storage class typically finishes within 12 hours. So this would be the fastest or quickly as possible as required by the question. So this looks good. Let's now look at the official documentation. For the incorrect answer, I've marked in red, that is for standard. These retrievals typically finish within 12 hours for objects stored in S3 Glacier Deep Archive storage class. So one of the options was using both for standard, so that's why it's not the fastest, which I have mentioned. Perhaps the option A was mentioning this. And for the correct answer, if you look for the expedited, it's mentioned data that is accessed by using expedited retrievals is typically made available within 1 to 5 minutes. We'll lock option C as the correct answer. Alright, let's look at the concepts for S3 and the destination types which we can configure. So we'll look at option A, B and C together. A says Amazon SNS, B says AWS Lambda, and C says SQSQ. So these three are incorrect as Amazon S3 supports all these three, that is S3, Lambda and SQSQ as the destination for sending notification. If we read the question is looking for just the opposite, that is which cannot send or cannot serve as a destination. So we'll reject the first three. We are left out with Amazon CloudWatch events. So let's look at the official documentation. It's mentioned Amazon S3 can send notification messages to the following destinations. You specify the Amazon resource name, ARN value of this destination in the notification configuration. And here's a mention of Amazon SNS, Amazon SQSQ, Lambda, Event Bridge. So that's what we require. and we'll lock option D, Amazon CloudWatch events, which cannot be served as a destination, as the correct answer. Alrighty, let's look at some combination of S3 and security related question. So we'll first look at option A. It says enable server access logging and check the TLS version for all requests. So server access logging in Amazon S3 provides detailed records for the requests that are made to a bucket, and checking the TLS version can help determine the cryptographic protocols used by the vendors to access the data. So this can be the potential answer. We'll park this. Let's move to option B. B says enable server access logging and check Cipher sudo for all requests. So Cipher suite is not logged in server access logs, so it cannot be checked. Incorrect choice. Let's move to option C. C says enable server access logging to check host header for all requests. So host header does not provide information about cryptographic protocols. As per the question, there is a mention of cryptographic protocols and host header doesn't support. We'll reject this. Let's move to option D. D says enable server access logging and check signature version for all requests. Option, if you look, enable server access logging and check signature versions for all requests, this is again won't satisfy the requirements of the question. Therefore, we'll reject this and we'll lock option A as the correct answer. So please don't go away. Let's meet in the next part of the series.